Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is June 16th. I have to take a minute there. June 16th. It is a Monday. TGIM. I am so glad we're back to work. I am. You know, well, of course, I never stopped working. Some people. What do you do on the weekend, John? Do you lounge around? Do you like go to the cigar bars and smoke cigars and brandy?
Yeah. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm generally just like a bump on a log collecting moss.
Come on.
You know what I mean? Brad, I'm most excited the fact that you're still alive.
Thank you, John. Okay. Personal note on that. In full, what do you call it? Full
disclosure.
Disclosure. Okay. I have a gallbladder issue. Okay. And I have ended up in the hospital 4 times with my gallbladder. And the first time they thought I was having a heart attack. And the second time they thought I was having a heart attack. And the third time they thought I was having a heart attack. And I never had a heart attack because they do the enzyme test and all that kind of stuff. The fourth time after this happens, I said I think to myself, I know this is not a heart issue. This is a gallbladder issue. And I said that when I went to the ER. And they did some tests. And about 3 hours after I'm there, a surgeon comes in, a very nice lady, and she says, "Sir, we need to take out your gallbladder." But the problem is they can't, and there's a very complicated reason for that. They can, but they do it the old school way, and they do it the new school way, which is laparoscopically, you know, where they do the little incisions and go in with all that little crazy, you know, endoscopes, whatever they call it. And I'm not a candidate for that, which means they have to do it the old way, which would put me out of commission for about a week. So when I have the onset of my gallbladder attack, I know it very well by now. And Friday morning, I was having that. And I thought to myself, okay, here we go. This is going to be number 5. But what happens was, every once in a while, it just goes away. And by the time I got to the hospital, I was in pretty good shape on Friday morning. And quite honestly, I didn't even go into the ER because I thought to myself, you know what? I think I'm in remission, so to speak. And I know maybe that's the wrong word to use because people always talk about remission with cancer. But anyway, that's my deal. But I was at the hospital where Shelly is, and she's still there, unfortunately.
Oh, no. She was there all weekend?
Yeah, and I don't even know if she's going to get out today. This gets very complicated with her. Once again, if you know Shelly and you would like to wish her well, or go visit her, call me, 314-280-8880. I'm not going to just say where she's at, so you know some crazy nut will show up like John would show up and go, Shelly, hi. I'm not going to do that. So call me.
Yeah, that would be way out of line. Now, what helps with your gallbladder situation for healthy people? The gallbladder, I think, it has something to do with storing bile. I mean, I guess your doctors told you that you get on the air 5 days a week and spit out your bile at other people, right, Brad?
That's why.
So that helps.
No, if I were on Tracy's station, my bile.
Oh, there we go. It is 7:07, and we made our first reference to Tracy Ellis of the week.
My bile ducts would be clear, so we won't worry about that. But over the weekend, like I normally do, what do I do over the weekend? And John, you can't hear this. What do I do over the weekend?
What do you do, Brad?
We are National Public Radio, NPR, where the news is what we say is the news.
Yes, I listen to NPR, and I find out all sorts of interesting things to the point where this show on the media, I think this show is actually not produced by NPR. I think it's produced by someone in the Soviet Union.
In the old time, you mean the old-timey Soviet Union, not even the Putin Soviet Union.
Yeah, this would make the people at Russia today blush. You know, I mean the way they do.
Who's the nerd who runs this? Is it some kind of a Frenchman or foreigner? Remind me who it is.
NPR?
Yeah.
No, she's an American. I mean,
the woman who does On the Media, though.
Oh,
or the person who does On the Media.
Her name's something. I can't remember her name. Well, it used to be. It's sort of funny because it used to be a guy and a dude, and the dude got canned because apparently he was like grab and took us, if you know what I'm saying. And he was.
Ooh, wow.
Of
At NPR, is there any woman at NPR who's took us you would want to grab?
Well, he was.
I don't mean to be, but have you seen the St. Louis Public Radio group photos?
He was saying inappropriate things. I mean, what's interesting about it is there's I don't know if it's happened recently, but for a while, there was a story that came out about every month about some guy that got fired at NPR or WNYC, which is a big NPR affiliate which produces a lot of their programming. And it's all these dudes who are being inappropriate with the women staffers. And I'm going okay, our tax dollars are paying for this. You know what I'm saying?
I heard a rumor that there were even people in New York that said that a former colleague in the news industry looked good for her age, and then that guy ended up getting canned. Or am I confusing that with something in St. Louis, Brad?
That's poor Don Marsh.
That's right.
Poor Don Marsh criticized his longtime friend, Karen. What was her name? Karen
Foss. Yeah,
Karen
he said
Foss.
that the simple quote, "You look good."
Yeah, yeah.
In an angry short hair, if I recall correctly. I could be mistaken. But an angry short hair in the newsroom that was producing the show got upset because you do not tell a woman that she looks good.
Right. And she went to management and they called in Don Marsh and they chastised Don, and Don says, adios, MF. That's what he said.
Yeah, AMF, as you would say,
right.
Brad, as I learned from you via Neil Bortz.
Right, AMF, and he left, which is good for him.
I know who's saying adios, MF, and that's somebody in story number 3 today, Brad. You want to set it up?
Well, we got this guy that comes in.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what does he do? He counts down John Combest's top 3. John's Combest's top 3 come from his huge daily purview. Is that proper right word? No.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's run with it, Brad.
Huge daily dose of what he thinks is important to you as a Missourian. And we start off with number 3.
In third place,
it was a big 72 hours for Governor Mike Kehoe. First of all, he's warning protesters to not engage in any monkey business, or else the National Guard is going to have to step in and save the cities and the protest areas. So Kehoe was dealing with that. And then on Saturday, Brad, he took the time to sign a few bills. I'm reading this straight from the Whispering Gallery via Jake Croson. Senate Bill 1. That appropriates a lot of money, Brad. This is from the special session. This appropriates a lot of money that was in that original House Bill 19. These are known as capital spending products. Projects. They're investments in the state's infrastructure, Brad. So Kehoe signed a bunch of that, and then he signed the star of the show, which was SB 3. And that involves a term that we should use more often here, Brad, instead of just saying the stadium proposal. It's the Show Me Sports Investment Act. Kehoe signed that. He also signed a bunch of that disaster relief. Cynics would say that disaster relief for the St. Louis area was kind of the price of him getting his way on the Kansas City Stadium. And as Scott Fawn points out, the special session was a great deal for people who live on I-70, whether you're in St. Louis or whether you're in Columbia and you got a Mizzou nuclear reactor, or you got stadiums in Kansas City. It was a good time to live on I-70. So Kehoe's got that going on, Brad. But he's not just going to take the rest of the week and relax. Nope. He's getting on a plane today, and he is going to France for his very first trade mission ever. He'll be back later in the week. I think he comes back on Friday. The trade mission runs through Friday. But Brad, he's going to attend the Paris Air Show, which is the largest trade event in the aerospace industry, and visit the Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial to honor Missouri's fallen World War II veterans. But when he campaigned, he talked about how he wanted to be a salesman for the state of Missouri. So he's going to be meeting with businesses that already have a presence in Missouri, as well as promoting Missouri to companies that don't have a presence here. So a big 72 hours, big win, because savages weren't burning things in St. Louis over the weekend. He signed some bills that were really important to him, and he gets to hop on a plane and go to France, Brad.
Do you think this trip's really doing any good?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of nattering nabobs and negativity and a bunch of hobos that sit around and throw popcorn at the governor when he goes and actually sells the state to other people. And those hobos include journalists. I'm not just talking about two guys with TWJDs, two worthless journalism degrees. I'm talking about actual hobos in the media who complain about governors taking trips overseas. Yeah, I think he'll talk to some businesses about how to expand in the state of Missouri, and it's worth a shot.
John, are you too old to remember the old characters of a hobo when I was a kid in books? The hobo was...
Yeah, it's a guy that owns a few radio stations, and he's got a bad gallbladder.
The guy was a hobo, had like a stick, and he had like a handkerchief tied in a knot.
Yeah, like a knapsack on it, right?
Yeah, and he put that on his shoulder. So that was all his belongings were in that handkerchief on a stick. And I'm thinking to myself, why did he have a stick with the handkerchief on it? I don't understand. What was the stick
Well, it's
for?
just easier to carry. It's more ergonomically correct, Brad.
I guess it releases back pain because of the fact it's like putting weight behind you, which helps your back, right? Would that be probably maybe the way to do it?
Yeah, but then he goes into the emergency room, and they're like, it's not back pain. You just have a bad gallbladder.
I wish they would.
But
say
you're in
that.
such bad shape, we can't do it laparoscopically.
There's a reason for that because of previous surgery, which I won't go into that. Okay, number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
97.1 FM. The Annie Fry Show hosted Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Now, Brad, you used to poke fun last year at the fact that AG Andrew Bailey seemingly every day was on 97.1. But over the weekend, I should say on Friday, he was on Annie's show, and he covered a gamut of issues. I'll just hit the highlights real quick here, Brad. He talked about the legal standing of Gavin Newsom versus Donald Trump when it comes to the National Guard. He says, quote, Governor Newsom's on poor legal footing here, as usual. And as usual, an activist just tried to interfere but was ultimately overturned. So he explains why Donald Trump legally has a right to do what he did involving the National Guard. He also points out, Andrew Bailey goes through, remember, this is the day before there were the big protests planned all throughout the state and really all throughout the country. And he goes through what happens if you're in your car and you have a bunch of savages surrounding you, rocking your car. He talked about the castle doctrine, Brad, and the fact that really, he calls it common law castle doctrine that the legislature codified into statute. So in other words, he encourages people to defend themselves as necessary. If they feel like they're under threat from a bunch of protesters rocking their car or beating their car, he says you have a right to defend yourself, to defend other people, if you reasonably believe that your life is threatened or that you're threatened with serious physical injury, defend yourself. Now, thankfully, in part thanks to Governor Kehoe saying he's willing to use the National Guard, and due to the fact that the demographics, I think, of the protests over the weekend were pretty favorable, there weren't a whole lot of negative demographics that might have been more inclined to commit crimes than other demographics. Anyway, thanks to Governor Kehoe, we didn't see a lot of violent protests over the weekend, Brad, but it's a good reminder from Bailey that you have a right to defend yourself.
Andrew Bailey was actually, during the campaign, Andrew Bailey actually had an office at 97.1. They gave him an office. And then when they say, hey, Andrew Bailey hasn't been on the air this hour, go down and get him. And they'd go, hey, Andrew, come on, get on the air. And
yeah, he had actually a wing of the building, I heard. It was the right wing, of course.
Okay. Last but not least,
The number 1.
Brad, I know sometimes you sit around and you think about Kristi Noem and Lauren Boebert and others, and you think, and Tulsi Gabbard, and you think, how could they possibly be more beautiful? Well, that's what I think sometimes about Trump's big, beautiful bill. And according to Josh Hawley, it might just have gotten incrementally more beautiful because there is an expansion of RECA, the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. To steal Brad's 10 times a day catchphrase in the show, here we go again. It appears as though the Senate is poised to pass Trump's big, beautiful billion-dollar budget, and it would include RECA money in there, Brad. But here we go again. We don't know if it's actually going to make it through the conference committee. You'll recall from the many times we've discussed this, Brad, that the House has always been the one that's killed the RECA funding. They say that it's super expensive to add more of this, more zip codes to RECA. But it looks like Josh Hawley says that it would be, quote, very hard for me to vote on a bill that doesn't include RECA. And this is extremely, extremely important to me. So we got two extremelies from Josh Hawley. So now what I love in here, Brad, and by the way, this piece is brought to us by Jason Rosenbaum of St. Louis Public Radio. Here's a quote from Dawn Chapman. I think we are all just thrilled, but we are also not naive. We're survivors of the Manhattan Project. We've been impacted very personally, and many of us have had extreme amounts of devastation in the form of illnesses in our families for generations because of this waste all across the nation. And here's the kicker. She says, we know that although we are in the package right now, we know that we need to stay in it, and we understand better than anyone. So my paraphrasing of Dawn Chapman is, we've seen this movie before. We've had it yanked out from underneath our noses before. So we're not going to get our hopes up too high. What do you think, Brad?
John, I'm going to ask you something weird. Do you think
Yes.
the Biden administration, and maybe this is a loaded question, do you think what happened with the Biden administration has made it worse with people, how people view the government and what they're doing, what they're saying they're doing? In other words, the idea being, we were told that Joe Biden was this guy who was, behind the scenes, he was doing handstands, and what was the
it's hard to keep up with that.
Right,
It was
exactly.
hard for an angry black lesbian to keep up with
right,
him.
that was the KJP line when she says, I can't keep up with him.
Yeah.
Do you?
To answer your question directly, Brad, no, I don't think so. I don't think the Biden cognitive decline affects, I don't think it has much to do with people around Coldwater Creek not expecting money for what they've gone through. I think that goes further than that.
No,
I just think there's just so many times where we thought that we had, I say we, I shouldn't put myself in that group, where people that are active in this, that have been working on this for a long time, thought they had the money, and then it gets yanked out from them, and then they get disappointed, and then it's back to square one.
Well, I meant the whole Biden administration, because remember, we were told that if you take the jab, you will never get the COVID and you won't pass it along.
I see.
So all the things.
Yeah. Oh, I think COVID probably did more damage than anything.
Right.
To the notion that we would possibly listen to our government leaders.
Right.
And career bureaucrats in the so-called deep state and actually believe them.
Right.
Look at what happened to COVID, Brad.
Well, Dr. Fauci, who every day would spout, I'm the guy with science. And the crazy part of that is, if you are truly a scientist, you are always open to, and I always give my crazy example of the doctor who essentially brought about the change in treating ulcers. You're always open to someone saying, you know what, this is the standard, but I think this might be a little bit different or better or whatever. And if you're a scientist, you're going to say, well, let's experiment, right? Isn't that what you say?
Yeah, but if you're a pointy-headed bureaucrat, you'll be offended by people questioning
right.
your
You go, I know everything. What are you talking about? You don't know anything, right?
Brad, I think SSM just texted, if you check your My Mercy account, it says that it's just an ulcer. You just need to have a little bit of milk and maybe an antacid.
and not eat spicy foods, right?
Yeah, don't eat that spicy food, Brad. I know you're a big Thai food guy.
And more importantly, not have a stressful job. Okay, that's all the things. Okay, John, third time in a row, and you didn't think it would last. Guess what's coming up in B Block?
Oh, no, wait. Did you really put together you've done something 3 consecutive shows in a row?
Well, I haven't done it yet, but I will shortly.
That's true.